everyone, hi, it's Kate. Welcome to day number 4. Every time I do this, I kind of always surprised how quickly it goes because I put so much effort into making sure these videos are good and they have the right information in. I'm taking into account the feedback and stuff, and suddenly it's day 4, which means that tomorrow is the last day. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about kind of regressions, setbacks, and perhaps anything else. So if you want to topic covered, then let me know. What I normally do is ask for kind of questions, and what I'll do is I'll probably answer them next week. So maybe come on and do a live on Monday and get all your questions answered, because sometimes you need to sort of mull these things over, figure out kind of what you need to ask, and then I can answer them kind of for you. But fundamentally, we're building those steps. So we've done the fundamentals, which was day 1. So the theories around sleep, and then we talked about bedtime routines and settling. And then yesterday we talked about night wakings, and today we talk about daytimes, which are the other kind of pillars, and then we're going to talk about other bits and pieces tomorrow. So don't forget, and thank you to all of those who've booked a chat with me. You can find out more about how I work and how I can help you out. I may well be posting a little special offer based on this week tomorrow. We will see in relation to my kind of sleep academy, so how I can kind of help you out further. But on to today, let's talk about daytime. So literally daytime is probably one of the banes of my life. If you have a child that has problems napping, I just got to put it out there, it can be one of the hardest things to change. So don't beat yourself up about it. Daytime is really important, but the most important part is that your child sleeps rather than how they sleep. Now, some sleep consultants will be very strict about naps and will be very adamant that you must be in your house for naps and your child must sleep in the same space the whole time, because that's the sort of perhaps the old school way of thinking about it. Now I'm sat here on a gloriously sunny day, blue skies, it's middle of September. I would feel really rubbish about telling you to stay in your house the whole day, because actually you need to have a kind of a social life. As parents, we need to be able to interact with each other. We've got classes to go to. So it's all about that kind of balance, and it is a bit of a seesaw balance. So if you do not focus on your child's sleep there in the day, their nighttime sleep's going to suffer. But if you can kind of work out the balance between what you need to do and their sleep needs, then you can kind of create this kind of magical formula. So what I'm trying to say is that as much as you can, you need to sort of prioritize their sleep. So if you've got a child that naps 3 times in the day, maybe even twice, make one of those naps at home. If you've got a child that's only got 1 nap a day, you make that decision, but the rest of the time you can sort of be out and about. And that's why today's prize, which if you haven't seen it already, is a Snooze Shade Deluxe, and that will fit over your buggy to create a safe, breathable UV environment and darkness as well for your child to kind of sleep in. So have a look at the posts. I put them in my stories. They're in it's on my grid on Instagram, it's on the Facebook page as well, so you can enter. And don't forget about the other prizes as well, because there are loads of things to be won this week. So yeah, naps on the go, just balance it. Just make sure that your child can settle, able to be able to sleep well wherever they are. So in terms of sleep needs and what you need to do, it's about creating a framework. I don't believe you can set a time for your child to nap exactly each day. And the reason why I don't believe you should set a time for your child to nap is because they won't wake at the same time every day. If they did, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Because we'd know exactly what was happening. But you need to be aware of when their sleep time is. And what we talk about in sleep consultancy terms is awake time. So how long can your child be awake for before they need to sleep again? So it's kind of quite simple like that. And the gap, that awake time, changes by their age. So the biggest mistake that I think people have when they have first children or newborns is that they keep their children awake for too long, and that can cause overtiredness and fussiness, and then that kind of just hangs over. So a newborn can only stay awake for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then it starts to lengthen out. So just give you an idea, about 6 months, you're talking about kind of 2.5, 2 3/4 hours. And then it kind of gets on to kind of longer, like 4 to 6 hours at the sort of 10 to 12 month area. So you need to be conscious of what that kind of be. If you need help and want to know what your child's awake time is going to be, then just ask. And actually, I'm hopefully going to compile a few kind of helpful little tips and tricks to be able to send out to people, so keep an eye out for that. But if you understand your child's awake time, then what you can do is you can then figure out when they're going to sleep, and then you work your day around that. So let's say your child needs to be awake for 2 hours in the morning, and actually the morning can sometimes be the shortest awake time. So your child wakes up at 7, and after 2 hours they're going to need a nap, but you've got a class at 10. So what do you do? Now, I would suggest in that scenario, you think, okay, what I can do is, if it's a nice day like today, I'll walk to the class, or I'll leave a bit earlier, and you give your child a chance to nap for that class. If you can be at home, brilliant, just do the nap at home. And then when they wake, you then build on the day. So you add on your extra kind of 2 hours and work out when the nap's going. So build your kind of framework, really. So awake time's really key important part. Now, the other part is about how much sleep your child actually needs in the day. And again, that varies massively by age and also by child. So I have averages, but they don't always ring true. So you need to be kind of conscious of what their sleep needs are in the day. So, actually I was talking to mum of a 4-week-old. We were talking about the fact that actually someone at like 5 or 6 hours that they need sleep in the day, but that goes down massively over time. And by the time you get to kind of like year-ish, you're talking about sort of 2.5 hours in the day. But knowing roughly how long your child needs to sleep in the day will help you, because then what you can do is start to make sure that you're kind of trying to fit that nap in. Now, big factor here, really important to talk about. Don't worry about how long your child sleeps for, as long as they're sleeping for the right amount in the day. Some people will talk about a long lunchtime nap, this magical thing that happens that you put your child down after lunch and they sleep for 2 hours. Doesn't always happen, and it's quite hard to train a child to kind of do that. So my suggestion in that is just to go, okay, I know my child needs 3 hours sleep in the day. I'm gonna give them the sleep in the morning, no longer than an hour and a half, because then I know that I need to give them an hour and a half later, and that might be in 2 naps or just 1 nap. So if you can kind of factor that in and plan your day around that with the awake time, you'll be able to kind of get to bedtime at a good time. The massive thing around daytime naps towards the end of the day is to avoid overtiredness. Please avoid it like the plague. It's really hard for a child to settle if they're overtired, and it's also really hard for them to kind of stay asleep and not be disrupted from early rising to nighttime waking. So please be conscious of overtiredness, and especially at bedtime, but for other naps as well. Don't push your child into that state, because they will not sleep better. Now, if you are at home and doing a nap, then we need to talk a bit about the environment. Another kind of perhaps myth is that you need to put your child to sleep in the daytime in a lit environment, so they get used to sort of day and night time. Now, that does work when they're very tiny, because you need to get their body clock used to daytime and nighttime and sort of help them to understand that. But after sort of probably 8 to 10 weeks, it doesn't matter anymore. They know what day and night is, because their body's adjusted. The circadian rhythm is kind of worked out what daylight is and what nighttime is. So unless you've got any medical issues, jaundice or such, then you might just want to make sure that they're sleeping in the best environment, which for me is darkness. Darkness is your friend. So as dark as you can get the room would be the best possible place for them to sleep. Use kind of blackout blinds we talked about before, grow blinds, tape the foil to the windows, whatever it may be. Darkness, your friend. And think about kind of how you're approaching the nap when you get to it. So think about kind of a wind down routine. Don't go from a massive activity into like, okay, they're tired, let's get them to bed now. You have to sort of ease them into it. They're used to the routine from bedtime, so they need it for nap time as well. So slowly but surely you kind of go, right, we're just going to read a book in your room, get you into comfy clothes to be able to put you down in a kind of calm manner rather than rushing from one thing to other. That can make a massive difference. Doesn't have to be anything long, doesn't have to be kind of like the big routine you might do at bedtime, but just make sure you've got a wind down kind of routine happening. And be conscious of white noise as well. So if you're using white noise, which I recommend, I would put it in the room, but make sure that it's on constantly through the nap. That will help them to settle, sleep cycles. Try not to use any other kind of props like music or anything else. And then in terms of settling your child to sleep, is fundamentally the same as I talked about on day 2. Really, you want to kind of just try and encourage them to be self-settling. If you need to kind of get them ready for sleep by perhaps, well, if you're worried about feeding, let's say, then do the feed, but try and keep it distant from the nap so it's not closely linked. So by all means top them up, but try not to feed them to sleep. So maybe put about 10 minutes gap in between that and when you think the nap's going to happen. It's just about trying to put them down in the right kind of state. So settle your child, lots of interaction, pick them up if you need to, just try and get them to settle on their own so that you're working towards that sort of self-settling. However, big thing here, if after like half an hour it's not working, nothing's kind of going on, then give up, because you just want to get them to sleep, because it's more important that you get them to sleep than how they fall asleep, like I said at the beginning. And you don't want to push them into this overtiredness, because that is just a disaster in itself. So bear that in mind. Naps can be stressful. I don't want them to kind of be the thing that you're kind of panicking about the whole time. I remember with my son, it was a nightmare. And I wish I'd have kind of gone, do you know what? It doesn't matter. He will sleep and it will be all fine. Because what I want you to focus on is getting the right amount of sleep in the day for your child, so that you are getting to bedtime at a good place and it all kind of links together, really. So in terms of making changes to naps, it can take a bit of a while, like probably somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks if you've got really distinct problems, but you kind of want to be going at it kind of knowing that you're heading in the right direction. Now, from a short nap point of view, a lot of people have short nap issues, and I'll talk about this quickly. So there is a kind of a classic kind of 5-month mark where you can have really short naps. Other reasons for short naps can be the fact that the settling is not as independent as it could be, and they're waking up looking for that reassurance to go back to sleep. So you could kind of just get them to go back to sleep and hope that they will just start to naturally go through the cycles. But you want to watch out for your awake times, make sure they're kind of right, either lengthen them or shorten them if they're overtired. And then the first thing to do with short naps is just rush straight in there, try and go back to sleep, and then work on that and build on that as you kind of go through the days to help them to perhaps resettle and go for kind of longer naps. But short naps are mostly caused by either settling, timing, perhaps a bit of environment. But yeah, it's one of those things you need to kind of consider. So that's it for today. That's my kind of daytime whiz around. Like I said, I will be kind of putting up some information about naps and awake time so that you can refer to your own child. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'm always happy to kind of help out. So I will leave you with that, and I'll chat to you tomorrow when we're going to talk about different regressions and early rising and transitions, all of those type of things. So I will speak to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.